AI will scale what the status quo is. We're not in the conversation because we need to be in it by publishing, authoring, and being visible in the work. And there's a way to do that without feeling like you have to be exclamatory unless you have that, unless that's your brand. All the status quo thought processes, systems, AI has already consumed all of that. The good news and the opportunity is and I am a proud member of Chief. I've been a member for 3 years now. I just think that it's so important to keep this place sacred, for us to really be ourselves, not feel like we have to flex or do any of that, but just be completely taken up our own space and in our power. And I am the founder of the Thought Leadership Collective. We're a strategy firm. I'm a former Fortune 50 corporate executive who left my role as the go-to-market business-to-business senior VP at Verizon and started my own strategy firm in 2006. So I'm on my 20th anniversary of being gainfully unemployed from the corporate world. I work with many of the corporations and executives that were in my seat. And today we're going to also talk about multi-hyphenate portfolio careers and things like that. And how are you able to accomplish a lot, still work in different sectors of the industry, retain your agency and autonomy while you're doing it. I'm also the author of Unicorn Team. It is a book about bringing your ideas to market with people who will rally around them. And so if you're interested, the book's in the back. You can take a look at it. I think there's a book somewhere here too in the room next door. And over 400,000 experts have taken pleasure to serve over 400,000 experts in my last 20 years, helping them build their expert-based brands, their businesses, and also lead at work in a more efficient and effective way. So this is an entire day to learn and to apply what we're going to talk about. And so the flow is set up with intentionality. Every mini workshop inside of the day compounds on the other, and you're going to see that through the worksheets that we've given you. And so I want to kind of go through that first. Everybody got a folder like this, yes? Everyone? If you didn't, make sure that they have a folder. And I will say you're going to need a pen. Does everybody have a pen? I know a lot of us don't carry pens. I forget myself all the time. So this is yours to take home. Obviously, take notes however you want. But I will say that part of when we're going to talk about how we need your creativity, we need your innovation, and part of stoking that is actually using your hands again, writing down, letting things stick, and doing that. So we're going to have more of the writing and less of the typing, which is really, really great. So inside of I'll go over that in a moment, but this is the agenda for today. We've already kicked it off. I'm going to talk about just thought leadership overall and set the context and the frame of the thinking that we want to be embodying as thought leaders, as people who are leading the next generation. How many of you are going to stay for the salon tonight? Well, I have a statistic for you that you're not going to hear until the salon, but I think it's important for this bigger room. And that is, think about your top 10 leadership books that you've ever, leadership, inspiration, personal development. Shout out, what are some of your favorites? For Brené Brown, Dare to Lead?
Yes.
Okay.
Good to Great.
Good to Great. Any other books?
Speed of Trust.
Speed of Trust. Traction. You can be like, that one written by that one person about that thing, right? And I'm so glad to hear at least one woman author was mentioned who yelled out, because the truth is that most of the thought leadership that we use today to make decisions, manage people, do the work, were written by men in general. We are on a mission to shift that, because the problem with AI is that AI will scale what the status quo is if we don't step in and decide to take our place in the leadership conversation. And that's really what today's about. Because authorship is one way to establish yourself as a thought leader. And we're going to talk a lot about that today too. Any of you want to write a book? Been thinking about it? We're going to also talk about how you actually get that done so that you can take your rightful place in the thought leadership conversation. Because again, the status quo, if we've been, who's frustrated with the status quo? Who wishes it would change? I'd say all of us, right? And part of it is because we're not in the conversation, because we need to be in it by publishing, authoring, and being visible in the work. And there's a way to do that without feeling like you have to be exclamatory, unless you like that, unless that's your brand. And to do it without feeling like you need to dance on TikTok or create Instagram reels. Who likes that? So that's really what we're going to be talking about in the first section. And then we're going to be doing, and it's a big set because it's the full context. So we're going to be doing some group experiences in the first part of today. Then we're going to have an amazing panel about architecting multi-hyphenate influence, actual leaders who have done that or are living multi-hyphenate careers and businesses. Then we're going to have a networking lunch. We will have a full lunch come in, and we even have a discussion card that will help stoke some of those conversations. And then we're going to move into the integrity of visibility, how to actually build a visible thought leadership brand without feeling like you have to be overly performative. Or if that's your vibe, be that too. Then we're going to talk about intellectual legacy in the era of AI, how to design your own influence portfolio, and then we'll finally conclude. So we've got like a big day, and as Mary said up front, I'm really excited she is putting this programming in because we need this, right? And I felt like this kind of work takes a couple hours to get through. It's not just a talk, it's actually doing the work, all right? So who's excited about today? Yeah? Okay. All right. So I kind of went over this, we're jumping in now. The frameworks that shaped the last era being consumed. So what that means is all the status quo thought processes, systems, AI has already consumed all of that. It is consuming it is regurgitating it is recirculating it. So if nothing's new, the good news and the opportunity is that the next era's frameworks haven't been written or known yet, because a lot of those frameworks are living inside you. A lot of you have lived experience, expertise, frameworks you've used to lead people, bring innovations to market, change the effing world, right? And they're inside, they're locked in. They're not visibly outside. And I got a great question at Human Tech Week yesterday about, so how do we deal with the fact that we're afraid that AI is going to steal our precious intellectual property? In fact, Nikosi was the one that asked that question. She's here. And my answer was something that may be a little contradictory. The answer is AI will steal it, and you want that, because you can't stop it. So you holding back from sharing your wisdom, sharing your thought leadership, what's going to happen is it's just going to steal the old shit, pardon my language. It's just going to keep recirculating it. And there are ways to obviously protect your intellectual property through trademarks, copyrights, etc. You want to do that. And there's also a way to architect it so that AI does actually source and reference you. And you have to bake that into your strategy as you share your thought leadership. But if you hold back your thought leadership and you don't let AI reference you, then it's just going to keep referencing the old guard. So that's really, really important. I just want to be clear, I don't like it, but it is what it is. And a lot of times what we do, and we think, oh gosh, all the men are talking about the speed of AI and how we can basically shorten everything. And women in general, we think about the horizontal impact, we think about all the things. I'm saying that we've got to step in there. You have to actually be present. You have to allow AI to reference you. And so therefore your work has to be published in public. And many, many women that I talk to thinking the opposite. And I'm like, no, actually, and I don't like it, as I said, but it's really, really important that mindset shift happens for you today. Because otherwise what's going to happen, again, is we're just going to be referencing the frameworks that don't work for us anymore, right? That we actually want to shift and we want to adapt and we want to edit. I call the people who aren't visible yet the people under the fold. How many of you in your career or your business was the woman who people said, oh my gosh, she is it. She gets it done. She is somebody I can rely on. She is so sharp. She mobilizes like a mad woman. She gets it done. How many of you are like that? Most of us. I mean, it's why I left in 2006, because here I was bringing some of the biggest innovations to market, and I didn't need credit. I wanted respect, right? I enjoyed, right? I like to know that if I'm gonna work hard, that the result is gonna help people, that it's gonna make me feel like I didn't waste my precious life force doing it. And at the same time, I realized that those were the stories I was interested in. If you read my book, it's funny, I wrote the book, and if you read my book, it doesn't look like it's written for women, but it is, because I center a lot of women's stories about how they are the women under the fold, the unknown strategists, the unknown visionaries, the unknown mobilizers, are making the world work, but they don't care as much about credit as they do about respect. And now, but the problem is again, then the world isn't referencing your work in order to change the things that we want to change. And so my invitation today is going to be for you to come out under the fold and start to peek above the fold. And that's what thought leadership is about, is that you are being referenced as an expert, as somebody who has stories and frameworks that help people thrive and flourish and change and all the things that we desire to do, okay? So let's talk about what's in your folder really quick. So in your folder, we're going to be going over, on the right-hand side of the folder, you have 4 slips of paper. These are the 4 main frameworks that we're going to discuss today and you're going to work on. So I just wanted to point them out so that when I reference them, you know where to grab them. And then on the left-hand side, when we do one of our group experiences, which is called the Influence Portfolio, you'll have that, and then there's a discussion card that you can use when you're having conversations once we start doing some group work and the networking lunches and the breaks that we have built in. And the goal of today is that you get to build your own influence portfolio map. And I mean your own. Frameworks exist not to tell you how to do something. They exist to give you an infrastructure to build your own thing inside of it. And that's what's important, because I also got a great question yesterday that I want to already surface is, you've heard there's no new ideas? Have you ever heard that? There's no new ideas, right? That's right, there really are no new ideas. So it's not about the new ideas, it's about the new messengers of those ideas, right? Your unique perspective of how you package, how you articulate, how you communicate, how you help people see things a different way, to think differently, to do differently, is the difference. A thought leader is a messenger. So the other thing is that we live in a world now which is exciting, that it's not just about being a creator, but it's about being a curator. And not just curator of people, but curator of ideas, right? Here are some ideas that can help people. And a lot of you are waiting because you think you've got to come up with your own sexy, nifty idea to present to the world, instead of actually referencing all the curated ideas that you could also be giving the world. And so thought leadership is about that. It's about your own unique lens and perspective, but it's also about referencing that, and frankly, referencing sources that don't look like 65-year-old white men, okay? Nothing wrong with 65-year-old white men, okay? In fact, I'm a big reader, so if you ask me what my top 10 books are, 8 of the 10 are written by men. And they wouldn't be great books because I'm a very high integrity kind of person, high standards, okay? These books are great books. But I also know that a woman could have written it, and she's out there, but she hasn't, right? And I want to change that statistic, because that's what AI is referencing. AI references published, spoken work, right? And so while we're taking care of the world with all the invisible work and load that women have, the people writing the future still look like white men. They're just like 42. And we gotta change that. Do you guys agree? Yeah? Yeah, good, okay. Because I don't want to be the only one. Because if this is not true, then I'm okay being not right. You know what I'm saying? But we wouldn't even have a chief if that was the case. The vision of the founders of Chief knew that in order for us to lead, we needed to be visible and we needed to be together and we needed to rally. And that's how change happens. So let's take out your notebook or something that you can write on. And if it's your iPad or whatever, it's fine. And I'd like to just take a minute for you to answer this question. What would you build if it couldn't be replicated? If you weren't scared that somebody would steal it? If you didn't fear that AI would cannibalize your work? If that fear was put aside, what would you actually create?